in Game 2 of the WNBA Finals earlier today, it was essentially a must-win for the New York Liberty, who already dropped the last game due to some late-game mistakes. But the New York Liberty were able to walk out today with the win, 80-66. Now, the story of the game was essentially similar. New York Liberty got off to a very hot start. Offensively, they couldn't be stopped. And then the Minnesota Lynx managed to basically hang in there. The New York Liberty did not extend their lead as much today as they did in Game 1, but the Lynx still definitely hung around and were always just right there, ready to make that comeback. But today they did not make that comeback. And give credit to Sabrina Ionescu and Brianna Stewart, who made up for those late game mistakes in the last game, because Sabrina Ionescu, if you guys remember, she committed a foul on Courtney Williams on what turned into a 4-point play, which allowed the Lynx to take the lead late. I believe it was 94-93, and then Brianna Stewart got fouled. She went to the line, only sank 1 of 2 with less than a second to go. That gave the Minnesota Lynx the chance to win in overtime, because Brianna Stewart, if she had sank both free throws, they would have walked out with the win. And then in overtime, obviously, the Lynx walked out with the win. Disappointing for the Liberty. But today, let me tell you, Sabrina Ionescu, I have the stat sheet right here. Sabrina Ionescu has been very inconsistent recently, but let me read you her stats today. 15 points, and she was 5 for 9 from the field and 2 for 5 from 3. Not bad, considering a lot of times in the past few months she's been shooting under 50% from the field, under 40% from the field even sometimes. And Brianna Stewart, she's always consistent, but obviously she had a big performance today. 21 points, 7 steals. That is a record for the most ever in a WNBA Finals game. And then she was 7 for 18 from the field. So big game from her. And then another big game, actually. Well, I shouldn't say another big game, but another player who had a big game in today's game was Benijah Laney-Hamilton. She had 20 points, and she was actually 8 for 14 from the field, 4 for 6 from 3, and people said that, the Liberty reported, and Benijah says she wasn't 100%, but there were jokes after the game between the media and Coach Sandy Modelo that maybe Benijah Laney-Hamilton wasn't 100%, maybe she was more than 100%, because she played extremely well in tonight's game and was one of the big reasons why the Liberty were able to walk out with the win. Now, just going back to Sabrina, she had a big first quarter. She had 12 points. Obviously, as I said, she only finished with 15. And the Lynx coach said after the game that one of the big changes they made was stopping Sabrina from getting out in transition, because that's where most of her points were coming from. So they were able to limit her to only 3 points for the rest of the game. The problem was just that the Liberty had, a great supporting cast. And I would say that the opposite was true for the Minnesota Lynx today, because look, man, the Minnesota Lynx, Courtney Williams, she just always seems to score at the right time. She seems to, she was just hitting pull-ups at the right time, and I don't know what it is. Despite the fact that she was not the leading scorer for the Lynx today, if you just watch the game and you don't look at the box score, you would think that she was actually leading scorer. She did have a decent amount of points tonight, 15 points, and she was 7 for 14 from the field, so fairly efficient for especially for a guard. And then she got some really solid help from Alana Smith. 14 points, bring out the stats you guys right here, 6 for 9 from the field. And then Nafisa Collier, 16 points and 7 for 12 from the field. So great games from all of them. The problem for the Lynx was that they weren't able to get that much help apart from that. Their next leading scorer was 8 points from both Kayla McBride and Bridget Carlton. So that's part of the reason why they were not able to actually successfully make that comeback today. Another reason was the Liberty were just fantastic from the field. I ain't gonna lie to you. 47.5% from the field and 45.8% from deep, which is astounding to shoot 45.8% from deep. That's really good. And then also just on the glass, Jonquel Jones, 9 rebounds. Stewie with 8, so obviously that's going to help. One area for improvement, I would say, on both sides is the turnovers, right? This has been a struggle for the Liberty at many times throughout the season. Today they had less turnovers, I will say, than the Lynx, but still 16 turnovers. That's not good. That's not what you want. And then 20 for the Lynx, which, unacceptable if you want to win the WNBA Finals. And then one more thing is that, listen, the New York Liberty had some really bad defensive breakdowns today, just not picking up players in transition, not communicating, players just getting easy layups. So that's definitely something the New York Liberty can work on. Now, obviously, the series is tied at 1-1 now, so either team, it's up to either team to, the series is up in the air. whoever wants it, it's like, come get it, because both teams, listen, 2 games away from that chip. The Liberty obviously had that chip on their shoulders, speaking of chips, from losing to the Las Vegas Aces last year. So obviously that's still weighing on them. They're going to travel to Minnesota for Game 3, and if it goes to Game 5, which, listen, I wouldn't mind if it goes to Game 5. I will be at that game. That would be next Sunday. And if the Liberty and the Lynx go to a Game 5, I'll be excited to be there. I'll be back covering that game. But if not, it was a great time reporting for the Liberty this season. And fingers crossed that they're able to pull off this series, whether it is in 4 games or 5. But with that, that does it for today's report. With WFUV Sports, I'm Will Jing.